Welcome to This Explainer. You know that feeling when you're super excited to hear a brilliant author speak, and 10 minutes later you're literally fighting to keep your eyes open? Yeah, we've all been there. It's because there's a massive disconnect between writing brilliantly and speaking brilliantly. So today, we're going to unpack the exact methodology to transform those dense, brilliant written texts into captivating live experiences. We're going to learn how to keep your audience on the edge of their seats instead of putting the entire room to sleep.
When you just read a dense 4-minute quote verbatim, audience engagement completely flatlines. It drops right off a cliff. Why? Because the human ear simply cannot process information the same way the eye does. What looks incredibly smart and nuanced on paper is usually way too dense for our working memory to handle in real time. The ear actually craves rhythm. It wants playful anecdotes, rhetorical questions, and punchy two-sentence insights to keep the heartbeat of the room alive. To fix this fatal mistake and get you presenting like a master, we'll follow a clear roadmap. We're covering the 3 distinct phases of the blueprint to stage methodology: the excavation, the architecture, and the performance. And then we'll wrap up by comparing 2 very different types of presenters.
Okay, let's dive right into phase 1, the excavation.
This first step is all about doing the heavy lifting before you ever get near a microphone. It requires us to extract the core thesis without dragging the entire heavy manuscript up to the stage. Think of your original text like a gold mine. You wouldn't bring the dirt, the rocks, and the whole mountain to the jeweler, right? You only bring the refined gold. Well, phase 1 is exactly that, the process of digging out that gold.
And to refine that gold, we use a filter. If you try to compress a massive 500-page book full of dense academic context and footnotes into a 1-hour lecture, you aren't really giving a presentation, you're just delivering an encyclopedia. And honestly, nobody wants to be read an encyclopedia. You absolutely must practice ruthless prioritization. Shake out all that excess weight so you extract only the vital organs of your work.
So what exactly makes it through that filter? Just 3 things. Number 1, the central tension. What is the core conflict driving your work? Number 2, the defining quote. You don't need 20 quotes. You just need one brilliant, memorable sentence that totally nails your idea. And number 3, the provocative takeaway. What's the one thing you want your audience arguing about at dinner later that night? If an element doesn't serve one of these 3 organs, leave it on the shelf.
Once you have those vital organs extracted, we transition into phase 2, the architecture.
This is where we completely abandon the traditional essay format. We have to remember a fundamental physiological difference here. An essay is built for rereading. If a reader gets lost in a dense paragraph, they can just dart their eyes back up the page. But a live audience, they can't hit rewind on your mouth. Your live presentation has to be a spoken scaffold, designed entirely for real-time processing, built with high-contrast bullets and plenty of open space.
In practice, this means actively editing for the ear. You never want to force your audience to juggle complex syntax in their working memory. So, you replace those brick walls of dense text with open, rhetorical signposts. Find the punchline, that essential truth, and clear away all the academic throat-clearing surrounding it. Just speak the punchline and leave the fluff behind.
Now, to build this spoken scaffold without losing the actual substance of your work, you need a concept called the weave. The weave is the strategic interlacing of your academic rigor, like the hard data and those carefully chosen quotes, with human experience. We're talking personal anecdotes, modern analogies, and a bit of targeted humor.
Think of the weave like a loom. The vertical threads represent your source text and data points. If you only use those, your lecture is going to be stiff and, frankly, pretty boring. But the horizontal threads, the human elements and personal stories, if you only use those, your lecture lacks authority. But when you strategically interlace the 2 together, you create a fabric that's intellectually rigorous and immensely entertaining. That is where the magic happens.
All right, moving right along to phase 3, the performance.
We've mined the gold, we've built the scaffold, and now we breathe life into it. Think about how a voice can change. A monotone reader with their eyes glued to the script and flat pacing basically achieves audience hypnosis, and definitely not the good kind. You have to break that monotone trap. Drop your voice to whisper a secret, then raise your energy to punch a key statistic. And, perhaps most importantly, utilize the dramatic 3-second pause. Dynamic vocal pacing gives your audience's brain a vital chance to digest what you just said and anticipate what's coming next.
Let's synthesize all of this by looking at our final section, the pedant versus the performer.
The pedant is glued to their source material, reading directly from a stapled manuscript. They recite long, dense blocks of text, stare down at the podium, and deliver in a flat monotone. They're essentially presenting for themselves. The performer, on the other hand, speaks dynamically from brief bullets. They drop heavily edited, punchy excerpts for maximum impact, they scan the room, make real eye contact, and use conversational variation. The performer is presenting for the audience.
Ultimately, the performer treats the audience entirely differently, almost like peers at a dinner party. I mean, imagine trying to read a 20-page essay to your friends over dinner. They would walk out. The performer knows this, so they completely ditch the safety blanket of the stapled manuscript. They rely on index cards and dynamic delivery to foster genuine connection.
As we wrap up this explainer, remember this: the brilliant book you wrote or the massive research paper you compiled is incredibly valuable. But once you step onto that stage, the text itself is just the raw material. It's your delivery, the lecture itself, that becomes the true experience for your audience.
You've got the complete blueprint to master the extraction, build the spoken scaffold, and deliver a dynamic performance using the weave and vocal pacing. The written word and the spoken word are two totally different art forms. So the only question left for you is, are you ready to leave the page behind and completely own the room? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.